Hi, guys. Today I'm going to be talking about how narcissistic parents sabotage their children's growth. This is a topic that I'm really passionate about, and I honestly feel like it's not talked about enough. For those people who are trying to co-parent with someone narcissistic, there's tons of information out there about how to protect yourself, whether it's through parallel parenting, using parenting apps, self-care, all of the things, which are all very important. And they're things that I also spend time talking about. But understanding the narcissistic parenting style, I believe, is of utmost importance because number one, we need to understand what's happening in the other parent's home, what their parenting style looks like so that we can counteract that parenting style while the kids are with us. I also like talking about it because I know it feels like a very powerless situation. You feel like you have zero control over what happens in the other house, which is true. You don't, but I don't think people realize how much power they actually have and what they can do while the children are in their care to reverse some of the behaviors, the things they're hearing, and that parenting style in general. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I have written a book about this topic too. So if you find today's information helpful, check out my book as well. It's called Nurturing After Narcissism, Raising Thriving and Resilient Children After Divorcing a Narcissist. You can find that on Amazon. The information I'm talking about today, like I said, is part of the book, but I also spend time talking about those other things like parallel parenting, how to protect your peace, how to essentially be the safe parent for your children, because studies have shown that children just need one safe and stable adult in their lives in order to thrive. So that's what I teach in my book. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pull up some information here. If you're just listening to this, you'll be able to follow along too, but I like to nerd out and create slides about the information that I talk about. So first, I'm going to talk about and go through some examples of ways narcissistic parents sabotage their children. And I've got 9 examples. So I like to just kind of give examples of how the narcissistic parenting style plays out in real life. And these are some specific tactics that narcissistic parents use to create and maintain the power and control that they have within the family system. So the first one is that they teach kids that emotional responses and feelings are bad. And this is particularly true of what I call, or what's known out there to be, the scapegoat child. It's the child that's typically blamed for things, who is the more outspoken child. They may stand up to the narcissistic parent, and the narcissist uses that child and that child's reactions as proof that they are bad or that they're rebellious. So generally, again, they teach children that emotional responses and feelings are bad. They'll label reactions up from the kids when they're upset as the kid being uncooperative, weak, inappropriate, maybe too much. And again, they use these responses as proof of why the child is the outcast or the black sheep of the family and deserving of poor treatment. Number 2, they create an environment where rage and shame are a normal, quote unquote, way of life. We all know narcissists typically use explosive anger and rage when they feel circumstances slipping out of their control. And this is no different than when they interact with their children at times. And what does this create? It creates an environment where family members will want to do anything and everything to avoid those outbursts. And they learn that compliance leads to the best treatment from the narcissist. This can also be applied or take place in a very covert, passive-aggressive way, such as giving the silent treatment or withholding something that's important to the child. Children who experience regular displays of narcissistic rage may struggle long-term with nervous system hyperactivation, long-term health problems, and developing secure attachment styles. Number 3, they prevent children from developing healthy relationships and bonds. And they do this, again, in an effort to maintain power and control in the household. And they'll use tactics such as triangulation between siblings, which is kind of pitting the 2 siblings against each other so that they can't be a stronger force together, or they will do that with the other parent or partner in the household. They create this air of competition within the household with constant comparisons being made and favoritism clearly on display. Typically, there's one child in the family that's the golden child that's shown that favorable treatment compared to how that scapegoat child is treated. And all of this just creates an environment of hostility and betrayal with constant comparisons being made. And over time, and as adults, children who experience this can struggle to develop healthy relationships that are founded on trust and peace and acceptance at the core. Number 4, they praise compliance and discipline resistance. Children who grow up with a narcissistic parent quickly learn that love, praise, and acceptance are conditional. You must comply with the narcissist's wishes in order to receive those things. And they'll often use things like money and gifts to manipulate children. When the child complies, they're rewarded handsomely, but when they're not compliant, the punishment is more severe. So they may, in those cases, throw away a child's most cherished item or withhold it, things like that. So it just causes children to associate making mistakes with danger because making a mistake results in punishment rather than being a learning opportunity. So this just overall results in overwhelming feelings of anxiety or stress for the child, and they may carry that burden the rest of their lives unless some things are done in the other household to counteract that. Next, they use tactics such as gaslighting to distort their sense of reality. So no different than that very common tactic that narcissists used in romantic relationships, they'll use on their children. This is especially true when the narcissist is called out on their behavior, which typically that scapegoat child is the most likely one to do that. When they're called out, they will deny, minimize, blame, or claim to not even remember that a specific event took place. And those are all forms of gaslighting. And they create a situation where the child's confidence is shaken and they struggle to gain control over their own thoughts and emotions. Next, they will adultify them. So narcissists often place children in roles that they're not ready for. And this is particularly true of that golden child, that favored child of the family. Oftentimes, they will make that child function as a confidant, a spouse or partner, friend or caretaker. They might even make them the mediator or kind of go between within the family to help keep the peace. They might also share secrets with that child that cannot be shared with the other adults in the household. On the other side of that, they may infantize the child, want to keep their children close to them in order to maintain control and feel needed and feel superior. So they may treat children younger than they are by encouraging dependency and helplessness and micromanaging them to just discourage them from being independent. That could look like not allowing them or discouraging them to go out into the neighborhood and play with friends, or make them feel unsafe being by themselves for a short period of time. Next, they may abandon them in times of need. This is, again, particularly true of the scapegoat child, and it can take the form of emotional, physical, medical, or educational neglect, among other things. And then second to last, or number 8, they may bail them out of trouble. This is particularly true of the favorite child or the golden child, since they view that child as kind of the idealized or, grandiose version of themselves. So punishment towards the golden child is like punishment for themselves or the self that they strive to be. So in those cases, it's not uncommon for them to bail the golden child out to protect their image and protect that, projected image of themselves that they view the golden child to be. Number 9, they may bail them out of trouble. This is often the case for the favorite child or the golden child, as I've mentioned, since they view that child as their idealized, grandiose self. Punishment for this child is like punishment for themselves. So when that child gets into trouble, they're likely to bail them out of trouble. So those are 9 ways that narcissistic parents sabotage our kids. So let's talk next about how you can counteract this parenting style while the kids are with you. So I have here what I call 10 commandments to making your home your children's safe haven. So number 1, it's really important that you encourage your child to talk about their feelings, thoughts, and experiences. Show them empathy and validate what it is that they're experiencing whenever you can. I heard something one time that really resonated with me, and that was that empathy is the antithesis of narcissism. So it is the best way to counteract that lack of acknowledgement of feelings or the gaslighting, all those things. So make sure you're showing your child empathy when empathy is due. Resist the urge to make those bad feelings go away. Instead, just be present, supportive, and praise them for being so open and vulnerable enough to share. That's really important. Doing these things helps them build emotional literacy, which is going to just serve them well throughout the rest of their life. Number 2, make sure your children feel seen and heard. When they want to talk to you, for the love of all that's holy, put down your phone and stop what you're doing. When they come into the room, acknowledge them, light up, smile. This can make a world of difference in just making them feel seen and heard and like they've landed in a safe place. Give them that attention that they are asking for and that they're seeking. Number 3, teach them and model personal boundary setting and assertiveness to help them navigate challenging interactions. If a situation comes up with the narcissistic parent, it's okay to work through it with them and help them and guide them to figure out how can they safely set boundaries in the future with that parent in a safe way. That is something that I've done with my children, and it really helps empower them and make them feel like they can do something in those situations where maybe they're feeling like their boundaries are crossed. And what better time to learn about boundary setting than when you're young? I know that's something that I wasn't taught, and it's just an important skill that everyone needs to learn. Number 4, create an environment of peace and order. So regardless if there's a narcissistic parent involved, co-parent involved or not, if you're divorced, it's just important to have clear routines, clear expectations, as well as defined consequences for misbehavior. It's likely that the discipline taking place in the other household is inconsistent or it's a little bit more extreme. So it's important that they know what to expect when they get in trouble. So there's no guessing or no anxiety around what's going to happen when I've made this mistake, and that fear around telling the parent what's happened. Number 5, help your kids understand the parenting plan. Again, this is just kind of a general guideline. If you are divorced, kids want to know where they're going to be, where they're going to be laying their head down at night, especially if the schedule that you have involves some back and forth. So something that was helpful for my kids when they were little was just referring to the number of days until they would see their dad in terms of sleeps. So I would say something like, it's just 3 more sleeps and you'll see your dad after school today. You could have a calendar that displays the schedule, maybe highlighting the days they're with you and when they're with the other parent, things like that. Number 6, support them in transitioning from home to home. Don't punish them if they forget something at the other house. Have duplicates of things like clothing, lunch boxes, shoes, sports equipment, whenever that's possible. Number 7, encourage your kids to come to you when a mistake is made. This one's really important. Like I said, making mistakes is often associated with fear in kids that are growing up with a narcissistic parent. So it's really important that you let them know that making mistakes is part of being human, and it's a chance for us to learn and grow. Children, again, they associate making mistakes with fear in order to avoid the angry outbursts and the disappointment that the narcissistic parent may display when something happens. So again, just emphasize that no one in the family is perfect. No one is expected to be perfect, and avoid, screaming and yelling when your child has done something wrong. Try to approach those situations in a really calm way. Number 8, apologize when an apology is due. You're not going to be a perfect parent. No one is. I know I'm not perfect. There's times when I get angry and frustrated and I yell from time to time, but it's important after you've had a moment like that to circle back with your kids and acknowledge what you did, or if you did or said something that was out of line, and remembering that they most likely aren't getting this in their other home. So they need that validation, and they need to witness an adult who's able to own up to their mistakes and repair the situation. Number 9, emphasize equal treatment between children and strongly discourage competition between them. So be really mindful of not picking sides, playing favorites, or even heavily involving yourself in their arguments. I'm finding this, something that is more and more of a challenge as my kids are in their teenage years. I hear constant competitive banter, one-upsmanship, fighting over stupid things like who's going to sit in the front seat on the way to school. I completely remove myself from those arguments and just tell them, figure out something that you guys can work with. I'm not getting involved because this is just silly. So just make sure you're not playing favorites, and your kids will figure those kind of situations out if you empower them to do that. And then number 10, encourage independence and self-discovery. This is really important for kids in general, for them to develop their self-esteem and self-confidence and learn what their strengths are, or what they're interested in, what their achievements are. So encourage them to make choices and decisions when it's appropriate, when it's age appropriate, to allow them to feel that sense of control in their life. Again, they may not be getting that opportunity to be independent and explore at the other house. So it's important that you encourage that when they're with you. So again, those are 10 ways, 10 commandments, as I call them, that you can make your home your children's safe haven. So I hope that was helpful today. Feel free to comment if you found the information helpful, or if you have questions, feel free to leave those. I love it when I get questions from you guys. Happy to answer those. And again, if you would like more information along these lines, check out my book, Nurturing After Narcissism. And I also include ways that you can reach out and work with me if this is something that's a challenge for you right now. It's one of the things I really love doing, is helping people navigate these situations and figure out how to cope, how to support their kids, and to support themselves. So with that, that's all for today. And I look forward to seeing you all soon.